Hello there everyone, welcome back to my channel. How are you doing today, beautiful? My name is Joesephyr, and today's Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia Should You Pull video, we're going to be talking about a very presumptuous guess at a banner rather than actually a banner itself, as we don't really know what this banner is. It's going to be coming with brand new Crevasse events, which is exciting in and of itself, but we can guess that Ardyn's going to be in there. Now, we didn't know that Garland was being brought forward for the previous event with Balthier, and so we're going to be guessing as to what's going to be on this banner. But if you'd like to know more, then of course stay tuned and keep on watching. Now, before we get started, of course, don't forget to check out all of my social media links in the description box below, including my Twitter, Twitch, Discord, and Patreon, and Instagram, and all of that other good stuff. Over on Twitch, I'm really happy with the changes that I've made to my schedule recently. It's been really consistent, it's been really cool, and really nice to see that people from other places in the world, particularly the US, have been telling me, oh, I really love being able to tune into your streams now, and that's been really lovely. Thank you so much. And this week we're going to be doing a lot more with Smash Bros, with Genshin Impact, so because I clearly need the practice on both of those games and need all the help I can get. So if you happen to be around this week when it comes to any of the streams I'm doing for that, by all means come on down, kick my ass at Smash Bros, tell me what to do in Genshin, because I'm learning and I'm enjoying learning. So while I'm talking a lot about the change that I've made to Twitch, I have also discussed in the past things that I'm doing to change in terms of YouTube as well. I'm currently in the figuring out process of what it is that I want to do, but I want to kind of let everyone know that it's still very much going to be within the Final Fantasy umbrella. I'm looking at playing a lot of the games through again, even though I've been doing them on count up. I've actually just finished playing through Final Fantasy 3 again and recording loads of footage so that I have all of that footage available so that I can bring different videos to you guys for the Final Fantasy series as a whole. So let me know what you think of that, or if, as always, if you have any ideas or things you'd like to see, I'm all ears and always open to them, so do leave a comment if you have any of those. Of course, not forgetting over on Patreon, I do always shout out one of my patrons every time I release a video, and today that person is going to be Felk, who is brand new to my Patreon and has jumped in as an Ultima patron and has been very patient. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I really appreciate it. And if you would like to get involved with all of the things that we do over on Patreon, private streams, private chats, title cards, all sorts of different things, then by all means give a look at the link in the description box below and perhaps consider supporting the channel further. And of course, don't forget to check out all of the other content creators and resources out there for Dissidia too. So honestly, taking a look at this banner, we honestly don't know what's on it. We can only assume that one of the banners that's going to be of the two is going to feature Ardyn's FR, BT, and the rest of his kit. When this was released in JP, it contained Garland and Sephiroth as well. Whether we get that banner as it is, it remains to be seen. We know that there's two of them, we know that one of them contains Rinoa, but past that, we don't actually know what's on it. Whether Golbez comes onto this or not, we already discussed Golbez during the Balthier event, but obviously he wasn't featured in there. Garland was instead, so we all know what Garland does already. And so there's no point going over him again. So all I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to talk about Ardyn, because I think it's a pretty safe bet that he's the character that's going to be featured most heavily in this Crevasse banner. So let's take a look at what we have with him. So big shout outs to Mediu, as always, for their translations over on Reddit. So Ardyn here gets a rework. He obviously already has his C90, which added a lot to his kit in terms of making it so his buffs lasted longer, made it so that you got more HP dumps out of his EX, things like that, and, you know, good stuff all around there. But his rework actually does a heck of a lot of work for him. So Warp Strike and his LD now both re-break, as well as give him an additional turn after breaking, give him a follow-up when he attacks with them. All good stuff with regards to that, and it really does help his kit out because he has actually quite a decent amount of damage if you use him correctly. So Warp Strike is now a triple HP dumping attack that has splash damage on it, and the follow-up attack that he gets from all of his stuff, if he has all of the stacks of his Spectral Charge buff, which he'll get from using his LD or his Skill 1, now gives an extra HP dump on it. So 5 HP dumps on a Warp Strike that you can do twice because he gets 3 turns when he breaks things, much like Lightning and other characters like that. Palom. There's loads of characters that do that kind of thing, and Ardyn does it very well. Aura of Darkness has AoE double HP dump. The only reason you typically use this is to keep his buffs up, so the fact that you get more usages out of all of his skills is quite nice, even if it's not the most important thing in the world. His LD now, well, as I said earlier, also gives you Rebreak and gives you quadruple HP dumps and makes Overkill, which is the buff that he has that stops him from being able to be KO'd, so he's immortal, essentially. He can still take damage, and therefore you can still take damage with regards to HP scores or anything, which is why I've always recommended not giving him an HP, like a healing sphere to give him his HP back up, because quite frankly, he doesn't need it. So he gets the Overkill action, like buff extended, 4 HP dumps plus the 2 HP dumps that are going to come from his Spectral Charge. That's all really nice stuff. So yeah, as I said here, Garland is one of the characters that would have gotten a rework here as well, but we already have it. And then, you know, he obviously gets an FR here as well. So his FR partner is Leon, triple HP dump. Also gives him cancel breaks, so rebreak after each HP attack, so really nice. We've seen stuff like that before with Gabranth, and so therefore the delay is a little bit longer. And he has quite a unique FR ability, and it's interesting, but the gimmick for it I actually don't think is as relevant as we would like it to be. However, whenever a turn passes with a character breaking an enemy, gives 20% and 20% more if he's doing it, and whenever a character selects a melee attack command, gives 20% or 10% more if he's doing it. So 70% from him alone, like every time he's attacking he's getting 70%, is solid considering the fact that he can do multiple attacks in a row with a decent number of HP dumps. We've seen something similar to this with Vayne, but Vayne obviously has slightly fewer HP dumps, but does a longer string of attacks than Ardyn can do. However, Ardyn's Force ability also makes it so that enemies' recovery from break becomes 3 turns instead of 5. So whenever you've played Dissidia at all, you'll notice that enemies will recover their bravery up to 5 turns, and you can usually tell just by looking at the number of bravery they have in the grey number when they're going to recover. Well, Ardyn shortens that and makes it so that it takes 3 turns, not 5, which is meant to go really well with the rest of his kit, and makes it so that, you know, other characters can benefit from his FR as well. However, I don't really think it's all that necessary for him. Bear in mind that Force time is only 10 turns, so unless you're factoring in enemy turns as well, at which point they're probably recovering their bravery anyway, you're only ever going to really benefit from this 3 times. And that's if you're not using Ardyn, because if you're re-breaking an enemy, you're resetting that timer, so it kind of feels pointless to have that gimmick on him. So, honestly, given that Ardyn has a BT, and it's not the greatest BT in the world, it gives you max Brave cap up, but no max HP damage cap up, you get Brave regen and party-wide damage up, it's fine, but he has a BT at least. It's not anything I would go greening right now, but the other aspects to his rework I actually really like, especially in conjunction with other FR abilities. You could even put him next to Vayne, which ironically is his FR partner in Vayne's FR, so that you could then use Vayne's BT effect alongside Ardyn's burst, and you could get damage that way if you wanted to. There's experimentation to be done here, but I don't really think you need Ardyn's FR weapon to do it, unless you don't have any other weapon that benefits from breaking. Now, as somebody who really enjoys this kind of playstyle, I still don't feel like I need Ardyn's FR, especially when I'm looking at characters like Aranea in the future who break with everything that they do, and her FR plays very well into that. Dorgan being another really good example. But I do think that he'd be an interesting character to play around with, like Aerith, who doesn't necessarily need their FR to still be good. You know, 5 HP dumps on Warp Strike on a character that can't be KO'd, that can act multiple times in a row, it's kinda nice. Like, is it back-breaking, game-breaking, like the likes of Renoa or Tifa? No, probably not. And would I invest resources into his BT weapon when there's the likes of Minwoo and Sellers coming out? No, probably not. But is he pretty interesting and cool? Yeah, definitely. I'd certainly give him a look, if nothing else. So we know what the event is that's coming up with, presumably, Ardyn's. This is a very, very weird video to make, I'm not going to lie to you. We know what the event is supposed to be that's coming along with Ardyn, which is going to be a brand new Crevasse event. And it's also quite nice to note that there is free multi-draws on both whatever banner this turns out to be, and a second one that's going to feature Rinoa BT. I would assume that this one will feature Ardyn BT on it as something that will come along with Ardyn FR. So this is going to be, all we know about it is what we've gotten from the slides. This is global exclusive content, which I love. You guys know how much I love global exclusive content. And it's going to be similar to what we had ages ago, where we were able to make like community challenges for other players and stuff to have fun with the Crevasse event. We know that there's going to be Shinryu and Lufenia sort of quests that have different like countdown and different force weaknesses as well, so it's going to be interesting to see how that's played around with, what resources can be obtained from it, what incentive there is to play around with it outside of, hey, look, I've got this cool idea and a cool team to like beat it. But honestly, it's difficult to say exactly what's going to happen with this banner, apart from the fact that, presumably because the slide shows liches and death gazes on the co-op screen, it's going to have something to do with that, but realistically we don't know what this is going to be until it happens. So, because we don't know what's going on with the event until it happens, we're going to move straight over into Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to let your voice be heard and tell everyone whether you would pull on a given banner and why that might be the case. So, as always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons for casting their votes and their comments. Now, I will say that I actually cast this poll before I went to the US because I assumed that, that Ardyn was going to be coming out with Tifa's batch. So I am curious if this has changed, like due to the fact that he's come out with Rinoa's badge, or even if he comes out with it at all. So let me know in the comments below whether your opinions on Ardyn's FR has changed because of the timing in which it might be featured. There is a chance that it's not Ardyn FR. We're fairly certain that it's not going to be a global first, because I believe it's been stated by community managers in the main Discord that it's not going to be a global first thing, which makes me pretty certain it's going to be Ardyn. But hey, I've been wrong in the past, and if I'm wrong again, so be it. So going off the idea that this is Ardyn's BT or FR and BT banner, 8% of people said they were going to be pulling with gems on this banner, 42% of people said they were going to use 100 or more tickets, 33% of people said they were going to use less than 100 tickets, and 17% of people said no thank you. I am pretty firmly in the no thanks pile for this one, mainly because I already have a character that does what Ardyn does, essentially, in Vayne. And I've invested in Vayne. I've put ingots into Vayne. And if you saw my last clear for Balthia's event, you'll see that Vayne really didn't do very well in terms of his damage output or anything like that. I assume that Ardyn's damage output is going to outperform Vayne's, but I already like Vayne, and I don't necessarily need another character that's going to do that, and I don't have the BT Plus resources to invest into greening Ardyn to make it so that he's the best that he can be to make up for it. However, if there's free pulls on this, and I get a free Ardyn FR, I'm certainly not going to spit in its eye, and I will say thank you very much. So, let's go into some comments then. Cobalt Zorg says, I'm sure people will say otherwise, but I just don't feel Ardyn's FR is all that great. He can hit decent FR numbers himself, but allies just won't get the full benefit, and you need to be breaking constantly. Not a huge problem, but it does limit your partnering options, and I just don't feel the gauge increases merit those restrictions. That said, I'll use a few tickets. Probably won't build the FR though. I've got Ardyn's full kit, so I think I'll just use him as an LDBT unit. I think I feel the same. Like, I'd like to play around with some of the characters he can play well with, and because he gets that lovely rebreak on his skill 1 and his LD, it does open him up a lot. And Ardyn's a character that I would like to see featured more, because I do really enjoy the character. I do think that he's got a very cool kit. I think his animations are good. I just don't feel the need to go in for his FR here. Although if it turns out that the Crevasse is going to have like break-based mechanics based on Ardyn's FR, at least he'll have a reason to use Vayne again, right? Anyways, going into Sergeant Tuffy, they say, I'm going to ticket Ardyn, I think. Does anyone remember Ardyn's debut when everyone talked about him being this insane next-gen DPS that was going to easily carry us through early Lufenia? Good times. Yeah, that didn't last very long from what I remember. For me, Ardyn never really lived up to the hype he had, but I've always been interested in his promise. It feels like every time he comes around, he's just one or two small things short of being top tier. This go around, sadly, appears to be the same. For what it's worth, he does get re-break on his LD and S1. His FR is a bit tight to work around, but I bet he could do some really funny things if you build around him properly. It's just that, like Vayne, it's hard to justify a full investment unless you've already blued and greened him. Yeah, this literally hits the nail on the head as to why I'm not going heavy on it. Like, I might throw a few tickets at it because I'm bored or something, but even if I got it, I wouldn't build it. I haven't got the high power stones to do it. I invested in Vayne. I almost invested in Gabranth as well. Kind of glad that I didn't. I just don't feel the need to go in for Ardyn as well. Conversely though, Luca Yasha says, I'll be using 200 more tickets of Ardyn's FR. This choice is very much character bias, as he's one of my favourite characters from FF15. As for in Dissidia, I enjoy how he plays with his ability to re-break, consecutive turns, follow-up attacks, and his immortal gimmick. Now with his rework, he gains more re-breaks as well as damage, and then there's his FR. It shares a lot of similarities to Vayne's FR, which is fitting due to their shared breaking abilities and the fact that Ardyn's FR is Vayne's FR buddy. However, while he lacks Vayne's off-turn bonus, he does have higher percentage gains overall from enemies being broken. Plus, its ability to force the enemy to become unbroken 2 turns earlier is a nice addition. I will admit Ardyn is possibly the most unnecessary character from Tifa's batch, plus, well, Renoa's batch now. Plus, him being a BT character means he requires more investment to have fully built. Even so, my enjoyment of Ardyn both as a character and as a unit is why I'm willing to spend as much as I plan to. I do think that the gimmick is nice, but because re-break is what you really want from Ardyn FR, it just feels a bit superfluous, and just, why is it really there? How would you, unless you were breaking one unit repeatedly and then giving the break to a different character, and then even then you're not getting as much out of that from his FR as he would by doing it himself. It's a very strange thing to put on an FR and not like an LD buff. I think that that's something that would have been really good on like a rework or an LD rework or something like that. But considering how short FR, like force time is, I just don't really get why it's there. I mean, please feel free to correct me as to why you feel that the 3-turn unbreak is really important to Ardyn's kit, because I'm not seeing it. So now for the big question, of course, should you pull for Ardyn? Well, this is of course on the proviso that the banner is Ardyn's to begin with. Fairly sure it is. There's every chance that it isn't, and if it's not, well, I guess I'll have to make another video at that point. But, going off of the idea that this is Ardyn's banner, and presumably, I mean, I'm not even sure that Golbez will feature on it now, unless they bring back Golbez and Sephiroth to make a triple BT banner, like they did in JP, but Golbez is where Garland was. It's very strange. We don't know exactly what's going to come out of it, so I'll be very interested to see what it is. But going off the idea that at least Ardyn's on it, Ardyn's damage is way higher than it was. There's no two ways about that. Like, he gets 5 HP dumps on his skill 1 if you include his spectral charge attack, and because he re-breaks and gets an additional turn, that equates to 10, which isn't too bad. It's pretty good, apart from the fact that it's split across 2 turns, which isn't ideal for force time shenanigans. You know, we have our Tifas, we have our Renoas and such like that, so is Ardyn somebody that you're going to invest in for that reason if you already have those damage dealers? But he has a BT, which is significant to the fact that those players who have already invested in Ardyn will have something to look forward to. So would you use tickets on his FR if you already had his BT greened? I'd say so. If you had a surplus of high power stones and tickets and such, you could do if you wanted to, because he's certainly not a bad character. Is he as busted as your Tifas and Renoas? No, but he does do slightly different things to them. He just doesn't, like, all the gimmicks and all of that in the world are all well and good, but if you can just like defeat the boss outright, you're probably going to take that road. I've been speaking to a lot of players recently about the idea that players who like to take the path of least resistance and players who like to make challenges for themselves. And I do think that the majority of people that I've spoken to are in the former category. But as somebody who likes to kind of like tread the line and go both ways, as it were, you know, he's a fun character to play around with, and he, you know, his increases on his FR are like 70% if he's doing it, less so if anybody else is doing it, which makes it less desirable. You're going to get like 40% out of it if anyone else is getting a melee break attack, so it's a lot of faff when it comes to Ardyn. He does bear similarities to previous break-based FRs like Vayne and Gabranth, who also require a lot of faff, I speak from experience. And party members just don't benefit from his FR as much as he might benefit from somebody else's. So if he's that selfish an attacker in order to use his FR, you've then got to consider the fact that you practically need his BT so that he's getting the turns to actually get the 70% increases every turn. And then there's the three turn unbreak mechanic. Like, on paper, it sounds really cool, but when you put it into practice and you're using it on a character that unbreaks with everything they do anyway, is it really that big a deal? So that's going to be all for today's video. I hope that this banner actually contains Ardyn. It may not, and we will find out soon enough, I'm sure. But let me know in the comments below what you think of Ardyn, whether you think the banner is going to contain Ardyn or what else it might have in it. And let me know what you're planning to do when it comes to saving resources. I know a lot of people are looking forward to Minwu and Sellers, so let me know whether you're going to be pulling for those characters instead. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click on that notification bell for any future videos I might be making, whether they be Dissidia or otherwise. And I'm very grateful to have you here, so thank you, beautiful, and I'll see you next time. Take care.